I have with me a dear friend of mine, and this is Joe Pruitt. And I met Joe while he was at Indian Creek. And Joe is one of these guys that has a really neat testimony of how God has changed his life. So I've asked him to be interviewed. And Joe, would you tell us your life, just a little bit about your life before you knew Christ?
Well, there's not a whole lot to tell, really. Typical average white male. Grew up in a military-style family. But one of the biggest problems I had growing up is me and my father didn't get along. And we always saw things in opposing views. Needless to say, during my young adulthood, the law was never on my side. I always opposed that and the father figure. My father passed away in 2004. And that was a hard time for me. And although we never really got along, one of the proudest days I had was right before he died. He had gotten sick. And I remember him coming to me, and we didn't talk very much at all on a father-son type basis. But he said, "Son, I don't feel right. I don't feel good." And I heard the tone of his voice, and it really, really stirred me hard. And about a week later, I got a phone call from my mom. And she said that your dad has accepted Jesus.
Wow.
And he just gotten saved.
Yeah.
And I know this is a prayer that she had for many, many, many years. And I remember being really excited. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And at that time, I wasn't following Christ myself. But I just remember that feeling of relief, knowing that. And so I was very grateful to have lost all those bad memories in lieu of that. Really had a different whole outlook on how I viewed him as a person, and how I really accepted it, because I was really, really, really bitter. And just that one fact by itself just stirred me so much that it just made me forgive him, just for everything.
Yeah.
And it was good. That was traumatic, however, though. And during that time, I went through several health problems. And the career I had chosen in the automotive field, I was suggested by my physician that I should change careers. I'd gone through 2 leg surgeries. I started getting on pain medication for my leg over a couple of years. And I don't know if that subconsciously did something to me, but when I was real young, I used to do drugs recreationally. Anyways, I guess the medication for the painkillers kind of induced me into a way of getting rid of the pain I felt inside. And it just started a downward spiral that it never stopped. And in the midst of this, trying to medicate this pain that I had inside of me and this bitterness, I just got overwhelmed. I got into another world that it's really hard to describe, other than it's just pure hate, pure despair. All my marriage fell apart. My kid's relationship with me, we separated, and I didn't know what to do. So in a desperate hope, the last, I guess, halfway sane thing I wanted to do was to bring my children to my mother. She was the only really person I trusted at the time. Her and my wife. Of course, my wife was out of the picture now. And so my intentions were to drop off my kids and then go to the end.
Yeah.
And it's funny with moms, because she kind of picked up on it right away. And she, after visiting with her for a little while, she asked me, "So what do you want, son?" "I want to be like everybody else. I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
I want to be married with kids. I want kids to do well." So she proceeded to help me. She said, "Why don't you guys stay here? And we'll just see what happens." It got to the point 2 years later, after not being able to hold a job, after not being able to have any friends, after not being able to be trusted by anybody, after not trusting myself at all, that I pretty much decided that this is it. I am just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm fed up. I ain't going through this no more. I'm done. I went out and committed a few crimes to get some money. And I went out and bought as much cocaine as I could. And I tried to blow my heart up. And just in case that didn't work, I took a bottle of sleeping pills and a bottle of some psychotic drug. I don't remember, it was a Depakote or something. And poured down some liquor and was hoping that would be the last time I had to face anything.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. Obviously, I'm here. Thank God. But I remember being so mad. I woke up. So I made my peace with God, and I woke up. I was mad again at him.
Yeah.
I was so mad at him. Wow, what in the world? I don't believe this. He wouldn't even let me die. Wouldn't even let me die. It was absolutely unbelievable. I can't even describe, the feeling of it. Again, I turned to drugs immediately. This is just way too much. So I went and got some more. And I was walking, and it was freezing outside, cold outside. I didn't have any shoes on. I remember being really cold. But I wasn't thinking about that at all. It's just like, what do I do? And my mom actually called the phone, and I answered it. And she said something to me that just completely broke me down. And she said that I would never, ever be welcome in her house. And so I made a commitment there that I was just going to do whatever the Bible said and let God do the rest.
Yeah.
And that's what started my path that I'm on now. And God has just continually. It started off first with, like I said, with not being double-minded. I was so good at reasoning things out. And, I could make an excuse for anything, and I would accept it and believe it wholeheartedly. But He really took a hold of my conscience. And His ways are not my ways. My ways are nowhere near His ways. So He just started speaking to me through the Bible, through Scripture. And it was just a constant deal. I got to the point where I couldn't even put it down. I remember I'd put it down, I'd go walk away to go to the bathroom or something, and it was like calling to me. It was fantastic. I just absolutely loved it, and I just sunk myself into it. I started noticing things in me that I never noticed before. And none of them were good. None of them were good. And I was a very prideful man, and I was very quick to judge others, by my standards, and which is the standards I was taught, growing up. And they say you're your worst enemy. I believe that 100%. I believe that 100%. The devil will use you to kill you, to destroy yourself. He placed a pastor across my path, and the next why awakening for me was that I still had some guilt and shame built up. A lot of it. I read Scripture, I know He's forgiven me, but I didn't feel it. I didn't exercise it. And Mr. Mears, old Pastor Mears, he would hang his hands out like the cross. And one day he said, "I've forgiven you yesterday, today, and tomorrow." And once again, my knees just went right to the floor. And it sunk in. I don't have to worry about messing up. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be who He's called me to be. And it's just been a fantastic ride so far.